all take a deep breath together? And focus our intention on understanding and connecting here today. I want to thank you all for gathering with us for this important topic, our community resilience. And I want to acknowledge the indigenous peoples who have been stewarding this land we all have the privilege to stand upon. We are in their debt and in the debt of the farmers, workers, makers, and cooks who sustain us. Your presence here today is a vote of solidarity. We see you and we thank you. Thanks for being here. I'm the Director of Education for the Center for Urban Education about Sustainable Agriculture. My name is Ave Lambert. Thank you for letting me moderate this panel. We at CUESA have been working with other farmers market operators, food justice and advocacy orgs, the city and county of San Francisco, and the state of California to keep farmers markets open and recognized as the essential food lifelines they are. The Ferry Plaza markets will remain open Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and you can support our farmers directly and in person. We also have a great resource for pickup and delivery on our website, cuesa.org. As we ourselves are facing layoffs and furloughs, please consider a donation to CUESA. I know we will continue to do this work for the long haul, and personally, whether I'm being paid or not, this work is my lifeline. We're facing a new frontier in food systems challenges and local solutions. We're here today to potluck ideas and information from different sectors of our local food system to engage our community supporters. We will present ideas and examples of local food sources and how to make commitments to these producers by finding the ones closest and most fitting to you and your needs. We'll be encouraging folks to find ways to make long-term commitments to the places you love and that feed you. Local food systems are so much more than merely transactional. They are wonderfully relational. We're going to share many resources that have been compiled recently, but we implore you to take away from this webinar the way to think about what your local lifeline is. Find the closest local food sources you have to you. This spreads out our demand by sharing the economic inputs to all those small and medium businesses to keep them up and running through this difficult period. We have great examples here, but please do find your own local resilient food source lifelines to champion. Eating local is a very profound and personal journey and experience, and that's the beauty of it. Creating relationships and long-term connections with the people who live around you and grow, make, and cook your food. Being a citizen eater is an action verb. We're talking about how to keep our local food sources and supply alive. These are our lifelines and they need us right now as much as we need them. We're not talking today specifically about how to find your local source by region or how its access is being structured by individual businesses, as so many have pivoted so quickly. We're also not talking about food insecure populations and resources for addressing those issues, which would and should be another seminar and webinar. Knowing the Food Security Task Force of San Francisco and many agencies and volunteers are feverishly working on this. Neither are we talking about collective political action, legislation, and advocacy we need to be engaging in right now, or how to do that. These are all very important topics for the sake of clarity and a succinct focus for parameters and expectations for our webinar today. We've chosen to stick to the aforementioned topics. Thank you for your understanding here. We're here in community today and hope everyone is bringing an open mind and heart to this gathering. We won't be able to get to all the questions. Please hold them to the end in the hopes that they are answered. You can send them via chat and will facilitate with the time we have left after our panelists share. You can also email us after the webinar. Many of us will be available. We're looking forward to many more talks like this in the future. And if you didn't hear what you're looking for here today, please be a citizen eater and leader and create your own webinar or collaborate on resources to share. At this point, many things are being done and created in silos, and consolidating ideas and resources through communication with each other is likely the best approach. So we can all reach out to each other after this. And like I said, this is really a potluck of information sharing. It is my true honor to introduce Lorraine from Eat Well, who will be our first panelist. Lorraine is a certified organic farming legend and works with her son, Cameron, and Nigel Walker's twin boys, Eric and Andrew, along with 16 full-time and 4 part-time employees on 105 acres in Dixon of Solano County. Eat Well is one of the Ferry Plaza Farmers Market's founding farms, and we at Quesa are particularly and very grateful to them. Welcome, Lorraine.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. So, crazy times we're living in these days. 2 weeks ago, not even 2 weeks ago, we had, literally 2 weeks ago, we delivered 460 CSA boxes. I still have one more run to do today, and then we've got tomorrow, and this week we will be delivering over 700 boxes. And the sad thing for us here in California at this particular moment is we're actually in the in-between season. So our winter crops are kind of coming to an end. Spring crops aren't quite there yet. We've got some fabulous spring crops coming in about 2 weeks. And so one of the hardest decisions we had to make the middle of last week is actually telling people, I'm sorry, we're going to have to go on a waiting list. And we had to turn our CSA off to new members. I think I haven't gotten the updated number from Andrew yet today. I know yesterday we were at about 150 people on the waiting list. It's been a goal of mine for the last several years to actually get our CSA back up to 700. We used to deliver over 900 boxes before the economy tanked back in 2007, 2008. And although we're not in a position to do 900 boxes, I don't think really anymore because you know, we have a severe lack of labor. There's a real shortage of labor for farms. But to be able to get to 700 has been a long time goal. And I'm sad for the reason that we got there, but I'm really, really excited about the fact that we did get there. And as much as we have worked really hard to grow our membership over the past several years, one of the things I thought was, well, perhaps if I can't get the box numbers up, if I can make my trucks more valuable by selling our CSA members some of the amazing food that I got to eat every week because I was bringing it home from a lot of the other food producers at the Ferry Plaza Farmers Market, that I could definitely increase the value of my truck. And so it turns out that particularly right now, the fact that we carry Rancho Gordo beans, that we have rice, organic rice from Sacramento, that we have Old Dog Ranch walnuts, that we carry vinegars from Little Apple Farm and a lot of other people, other items. We literally last week sold $5,000 in extra items to our CSA members, which really brought the value of our truck up. But also, most importantly, during this really crazy time when people are having a hard time finding a variety of food in their supermarkets, they've been able to turn to their CSA, to their farm, and know that they were able to order all these extra items to come with their produce box. And we've had countless members write to us and tell us, I am so grateful that right now we have you guys here providing us with all this food, and the fact that we turned the CSA off to new members. Our existing members wrote in and said, I'm really grateful that I know you're putting us first, those of us who have been here for years and years and years, and you're taking care of us, and we don't have to worry about the food, where food is coming from for our family. And it occurred to me, because I don't actually worry about food. You know, I've got many freezers filled with chicken stock. I have over 2,000 chickens on the farm laying eggs. My neighbors have pork in the freezer, they have beef in the freezer, and I have lots and lots of vegetables. So it's not for me personally a concern. I don't have to worry where my food is coming from. But the emails that we're getting from our members and the text messages that they're sending in to me has really made it clear that there's a good amount of panic going on out there. People are concerned, they're worried. And we're actually able to provide something to take at least a little bit of that worry away from them. And I think one of the things that I've thought a lot about over the last 2 weeks is that we're very blessed here in Northern California to have so many amazing farms, and all of us have stepped up. I know all of the farms who have CSAs and have had CSAs for years and years. We're all at maximum capacity right now. I know that there are farms that didn't have CSA programs who have, in a week's time, put together a small CSA program to take care of as many people as they can. And that's pretty incredible. We were fortunate because this has been the primary focus for our business for over 25 years, that we had all of our systems in place, so we were able to hit maximum capacity immediately. And I'm hoping in about 3 weeks that we'll be able to take on even more members as more crops come in and are ready to be harvested. But it makes me think that if all of us had been better supported over the last 15 years and we were growing more, for instance, my farm, we could have been growing more. We could have more crops in the field. I have fields that are empty right now. But what is the point of investing all the money into getting fields mowed, getting beds prepped, buying the seeds and buying the plants and putting them in if you have no sales for them? If you can't sell them, it's unaffordable to be growing them. So we all struggle with our farms trying to figure out ways to stay viable and stay financially healthy, especially here in California where it's so expensive. Labor is really high, water is really high, power is really high, diesel is so expensive. And so most of us are pretty creative trying to find different ways to stay in business. What I'm hoping is at the end of all of this crisis, that a good amount of people realize having a local food shed is critically important, because the fact is we rely far too much on food coming from way far away and from other countries. And where did people turn to immediately to find food that they were looking for? And it really was for a lot of people, it was the farmers. So I'm hoping that this brings us to a place where we can actually grow our local food system so that we're bigger and stronger. And the next time we have some kind of a major crisis, we'll be even better prepared. We'll all be growing more food. And maybe a lot of the people who are looking for that food will already be buying their food from us. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I find recently, in the last week, I think I've become more of a buyer than anything else, just trying to stay on top of all the extras that we are providing our CSA members. So yeah, I'm a little bit on the tired side. I just got back from doing deliveries and I've been out on the road since 4 o'clock this morning. So I apologize for not being quite so clear and perky like I normally am, but anyway.
Thank you so much. No apologies necessary, Lorraine. Farming is a public service. It's my favorite hashtag. We just really want to thank you for being here and speaking. You know, we really want to keep the connection and hear from our farmers right now and how we can support you. It's why we're trying to do this webinar. And like you said, it's not about everybody joining the Eat Well CSA. It's about everyone finding the CSA or source near you. In fact, like you said, Eat Well has had their best week and CSA signups ever and have a wait list. This is a prime example of proximity to your food source and farmer and knowing your farmer. If we are all finding our best fit, most local to us lifeline for food supply, we can distribute the demand and meet the supply in a very organic way, so that we're not all calling Lorraine and Eat Well. We're finding our local farm. So thank you so much.
There's actually, you're welcome. There is a really great resource at oh God, localharvest.org, their website. They've got a really good comprehensive list of CSAs all around the country. We actually have a lot of people who find us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So.
We're going to be sharing an extensive list of resources and how to find the resources. Willow is going to kick it off, and then we're going to share more at the end, and we'll have a follow-up email as well. But yeah, thank you, Lorraine. It's my pleasure to introduce the indomitable Willow Blish of Slow Food East Bay. And like I said, she's going to walk us through some resources.
Well, thank you, Ave. That's definitely overselling me. I can't imagine, I can't, like, having to follow Lorraine. I just want to thank you, Lorraine, for all the incredible work that you've done and what Eat Well has done. And I want to second everything you said, and I'm going to be addressing a little bit of that as well as I'm talking. So obviously, with more people at home, the need for our local food producers to develop ways to get their food to everyone is imperative. And I'm going to address one resource or one kind of set of resources now, and then talk about another set a little bit later. But to begin with, you know, we're talking about traditional CSAs, like what Eat Well does, and Full Belly Farm, and other producers, and produce boxes, food boxes, but we also really need to start thinking outside that box. There are many small farmers who have been serving restaurants, and like Lorraine mentioned, they're now having to pivot to direct consumer sales. And some, you're seeing farms that are starting to team up with neighbor farms, so they're not just offering produce, but adding in dairy and meat and eggs. So there are a couple of lists, and I can share some screen shares as I'm talking about this, and then these lists, all of these resources will go out to all of you. Locally, kind of Bay Area, there's a great list that's being maintained by Kitchen Table Advisors. Edible East Bay is keeping a list, and Community Alliance with Family Farmers is also keeping a list, and I know we're going to hear from Evan a little bit later about what they're doing. Nationwide, like Lorraine spoke about, there's localharvest.org, and also look for your local edible communities. A lot of any community that has an edible magazine, most of them have CSA listings, and they have direct connections to local food sources. In addition to that, consider connecting with your neighbors or with your communities and reaching out to Feed Sonoma. They're beginning to pack and deliver boxes with a minimum of 10 orders. And they are compiling from various farms in the North Bay. You can also Google urban farms in your neighborhoods. There are places like in East Oakland, Acta Non Verba is an amazing woman of color. Kelly Carlisle is running that, and they have locally delivered CSA boxes as well. And also just a reminder to consider things other than produce. Sea Forager is an example of a community-supported fishery that does deliveries. So just kind of, again, thinking outside the box. You know, and I always think about my CSA deliveries. I think of it as the most positive and healthy codependent relationship that I might ever have. If you think about it, you are keeping your farmers afloat. They are keeping you fed, and you're establishing a relationship that's going to last into the future, because I want to second what Lorraine says, that this is not just about solving the problem right now, but it's about thinking about the bigger picture and what we're going to do down the road to continue to solve this problem. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Willow. Yeah, my sister and I share a community-supported fishery out of Monterey Bay, and getting a big load of salmon is like Christmas. I'm going to introduce Evan Wigg, the Director of Membership and Communications with the Community Alliance with Family Farms. Evan, take it away. You there, Evan?
Oh, muted. Can you hear me now?
There you are.
All right. Well, thanks so much for having me on. And I just really want to say thanks to Lorraine for sharing that story. It's the exact story that we're hearing from farms across California. CSAs are exploding like they haven't done really ever. And it's a huge show of support. And meanwhile, the farms that we're selling direct to restaurants, to wholesalers, and also to school cafeterias are really facing some very immediate needs right now. We have a farm to school program at CAF here where we assist connecting local family farms with school cafeterias, trying to get more fruits and vegetables into kids' lunches. But as you can imagine, almost overnight, those accounts disappeared, as did all those restaurants, things like that, the food hubs that deliver to those restaurants. So it's a time of sudden need to switch business models, which is a really huge challenge. You can imagine if you're running a business where crops have already been harvested or fields have already been planted, to try to take an immediate 180 turn and jump into a CSA model that, for instance, Lorraine has spent a long time developing and refining and perfecting to create the wonderful farm that they have. To try to do that immediately is a huge challenge, but they're doing it. They're adapting as quick as they can. So what I would encourage people to do is, as you'll probably find, that a lot of those more well-known CSAs are selling out and you get on those waiting lists. But a lot of the other farmers that you might not know of are suddenly trying e-commerce for the first time, doing box deliveries, doing special orders. I was just on the phone with the folks at Liberty Duck, and this is a company out of a farm out of the North Bay here who sold primarily to restaurants, and suddenly they lost those accounts. Now they're just ramping up their e-commerce game, and you can buy directly from them. So whether it's through a CSA, whether it's through online purchasing, there's a number of ways to support farms. And as Willow mentioned, Feed Sonoma is a good example of a food hub that previously was selling to restaurants and corporate cafeterias and things like that, and in a matter of days had to switch their business model. And now they're providing CSA-like aggregated boxes from dozens of family farms across the North Bay. And so as you start to see those come on to line, I encourage you to check that out. And I think the last thing I really want to throw in here is that this is a moving target. Things are changing incredibly fast, and we don't know how long this is going to last. It could be weeks if you believe Donald Trump, or it could more likely be months. And the question I want to leave you with is this amazing, wonderful, inspiring surge in CSA subscriptions sustainable? What can we as a community do to support this business model, this community, this direct relational model that's been around since, for many, many decades? How do we make sure that after the crisis is over, after the restaurants open back up again, that we can maintain that support? I would love to see a year from now, folks like Lorraine still having to deal with waiting lists. That's something we want to see, as opposed to having to work with farmers all over California who are just, desperately trying to retain their members as folks drop off. So I just want to pose to all of you, what is it going to take to get consumers and communities to have that long-term sustained support of our farms, like Eat Well?
Yeah, thank you so much, Evan. I think this is the time where we all get to shift into supporting our small local food producer, whether they're an urban farm like Willow mentioned, or our next panelist is going to talk about all the wonderful restaurants, bakeries, prepared foods and things. So yeah, just how can we support now and keep that support going? It is my pleasure to introduce the Queen of Monterey, Pamela Burns. She's the chef and owner of Wild Plum Cafe, Bistro, and Bakery, a community hub dedicated to local organic ingredients and sustainably caught fish. She has over 30 years experience as an entrepreneur and chef, having started the Baker's Wife, 6th Avenue Grill, and the founder of the Monterey Pasta Company. Thanks for being here, Pamela. Oh, and you are muted.
Okay, there we go. It's really an honor to be here and to share this platform with the rest of these speakers. I'm really, really in awe of everybody. Restaurants, cafes, bakeries are hurting right now. Small restaurants that are really dependent, especially organic restaurants like mine, and restaurants that are dependent on farmers to get their food. Some of our sources actually are no longer there. We don't have all the farmers markets that we used to have. So it's a combination of revamping our menus. A lot of us are pivoting to takeout, but takeout that really works, we're revamping menus. And so I guess what I'd like to talk about is just how can we support and how can we sustain that support. Again, echoing what Willow said, that I would love to see, you know, a real groundswell of supporting restaurants and cafes in your local neighborhood, supporting those local economies, and especially supporting those businesses that are supporting farmers and fishermen and local producers. So one of the things that I'd like, just go out to your neighborhood, you know, pay it forward. Walk around when you're out for your walk or your jog, see who is serving takeout, see who is, what they're offering, see who's doing dinners, and try to support those in your neighborhood. And, you know, it's great to go in for a cup of coffee. It's great to buy a meal. All those things are wonderful, and we'll take it all, whether it's a dinner today or a dinner tomorrow. But something that will really help local restaurants right now is paying it forward, is using their rewards programs. Go onto their websites, go onto their Facebook pages, see what they're offering, and do what you can to pay it forward. If you can order something, order a little bit more for somebody, for yourself or someone else, that's amazing. Using these gift cards, most restaurants like myself and catering companies are going to, restaurants are going to let you use it for anything. You can use it for a meal now, or you can buy it later. So choose, and the other thing I would say is not only pay it forward, but choose local delivery. Most delivery companies, most of the Uber Eats and some of the other delivery companies charge 30%, 15 to 30%. Lots of employees. There's actually many cafes and restaurants whose employees are volunteering to do deliveries so that they can make a little bit of cash. So when you pay it forward, you help the restaurant sustain itself and support their employees, which is what we're trying to do. And when you choose local delivery, see what delivery options they have, and try to use their delivery services as much as you can, so we can keep these people working. And locally in our neck of the woods, we're going to be posting some, connecting to some websites. Every region's a little bit different, but I echo what Willow said. Edible Monterey Bay is a great source. We also have something in our area called Monterey Aid that's posting different businesses and what they can do. And just in closing, I hope again that we can all foster this change going forward, that where we're really eating local, really supporting those businesses and restaurants and cafes and farmers. It's a real honor to be in partner with all of my producers and my farmers and my fishermen. So at that, I will turn it back over to Abby.
Thank you so much, Pamela. Yeah, it's truly an honor to do this work in partnership with all of you. Like Pamela mentioned, your local edible, I know San Francisco has a great interactive map. If you're not on that map, please get us the information so we can share that out. This is a great way for us all to info share. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the guy who brought us all together, a great foodie and supporter of all of us, Arno Hess with Slow Money, Northern California.
Yes, hi everybody. So, of course, as Slow Money, we're not really in the business of rapid response usually, and it's really heartening to see so many people that we usually like to meet in person, but to see you guys online. I wish we could all see each other and and there will be a time where we can even hug each other again and talk to each other. So for the meantime, I think for us as eaters and as customers of those businesses that we hear about here right now, I think a lot of that is what Pamela just said, pay it forward. If we have money in our pockets and are in a lucky situation that we can, those businesses need it right now because they need to pay it forward. They need to pay the employees. They need to stay open. That's what we can do as customers. Of course, CSAs, one option. Let me just share something quickly on the screen here with everybody. For example, I'm a customer of Sea Forager, where I get my seafood. I pick it up today. Usually I'm paying like month by month, and I went ahead and now extended it for the next 12 deliveries, paid it forward. There's probably even a bigger amount. Then there's like White Plum Cafe. Pamela was referring to this. Credibles is one of those services that are basically virtual gift cards, and it's not, I have, because Incredibles, I have insights behind the scenes, but there are other gift card programs out there. But the key is with gift cards to promote the larger amounts. And just for the purpose of this webinar, just maybe flip over to another company that I think does this very well. And they have, I cannot say how much, but they have done very well with their CSA and having virtual gift certificates. And I just want to draw the attention to the levels here. So you see, this is Market Gut Grass-Fed. That is a wonderful meat supplier on the Pescadero coast, doing amazing work with soil and carbon sequestration. And you see here, customers can commit at the $300, $600, and $900 level. And now we see more people picking the higher levels. And I think these are good levels, like for where people can pick according to what they can, and they know that they will be eating the meat at some point anyway. And they pick it up at farmers markets as they go, and then it gets deducted from the card. But I also want to draw the attention to what they do. Maybe a good example for this follow. They give a little extra. So 300 they give 310, and 600 they give 630, and when you can do 900 they give 950. And so there is a slight incentive to go towards the larger amounts, so just nudge the people who can do it, but there is not an exorbitant reward for people who have the privilege of bigger pockets. But whatever people can do right now with CSA subscription is nice, but if you have a CSA subscription, see that you can pay it forward. So pay for the next half year in advance if that's something that you can. Buy the gift card at the highest level so that they can pay their employees and pay their fixed cost. So that's kind of a model that it's my appeal to the consumers and to the eaters. Open the pockets, keep those food sources alive. And there's some examples for gift cards as a great example for restaurants, also for other local stores, specialty stores that have to close right now to keep them alive while they are going through these dire times. So we do, just by, while I have the microphone, I also want to quickly draw the attention to that we put a bunch of resources already live on the web. Let me just bring this quickly up here. Hold on. The wonders of sharing screen. So on our website, Slovenia NorCal, you basically find a bunch of the links that also Willow and others have been talking about. This is based on lots of the links that Willow and Cindy Darling from our team have put together a great jump-off points to find more resources, and Willow will talk about it in a minute. But thanks for joining us today, and I hope to see you in person pretty soon again.
Thank you so much, Arno. Yeah, we'll continue to update that website and share in our recap email. Next up is Will Kohler Chase, also from Slow Money, Northern California.
Thanks, Ave. Hi, everyone. Piggybacking on the topic that Arno was talking about with trying to pay it forward by prepaying, there's another way to pay it forward with these local producers and food businesses, and that's actually making investments in these food businesses. And so there are opportunities when I'm talking about investments. What I mean is to make a financial return, or the possibility to make a financial return alongside generating an impact in your local food system. And so I just wanted to quickly talk about two opportunities that are live right now. And if you're interested in finding out more about investments, this is what we do at Slow Money. So please get in touch with us, and we'll share some resources also after this. I'm just going to share my screen really quickly. So the first, this is a project that, it's a crowdfunding project that's live right now. It's a mission-driven restaurant in the Fruitvale neighborhood in Oakland. And it's essentially training. It's a real restaurant that's serving food, and it's training at-risk youth and people in that community to serve get them experience in fine dining restaurants. And it's a project of the Restaurant Opportunity Center that has been working on this for many years, and it's a fantastic team. They've already raised $16 million to buy the building and get everything set up, and so now they're doing a crowdfunding campaign just to get the last little bit of working capital that they need to start the restaurant. So this is something that you can find on WeFunder. We'll share the link with that, $100 minimum. But this is the kind of thing where investing in the skills so that when these restaurants can come back, food service is such an important part of the economy, and making sure that we have skilled people that are able to do this is really important. Secondly, California FarmLink. This is a nonprofit that helps small farmers access land and access capital, making low interest loans to small farmers. They also have a crowdfunding campaign open right now where you essentially lend money to FarmLink, and that enables them to do their work supporting farmers. So we will share these again after this, but basically, if especially now more than ever, if you're seeing, if you've been following what's going on in the public markets, the opportunity to earn with investments like this, low single-digit percentage rate of return, but while having an impact and supporting the resilience of your food system, actually seems like a pretty good deal. And so we're hoping that it's with this kind of investment, we'll also be able to really, for the long term, support the resilience of our local food system. So thank you.
Thank you, Will. I know I've seen a lot of my favorite little restaurants start a GoFundMe, including the sort of La Cocina group. And out of Goleta, my friend Allison started an online platform called Fruit Stand, which also has a proximity finder you can put your zip code into. Allison, if you could send us that link, that would be great. And back to Willow for more resources.
I'm sure as you all, I am, as you, I'm sure all are, it's just inundated with lists. Like there's so many people that are creating mutual aid lists or lists in their communities of what's open and what's closed, and it's getting pretty overwhelming. There were a group of us, we kind of sat back and said, okay, how do we want to find out who in our local food system is still open so that we can all step up and support them? Again, like I said, there are lots of crowdsourced lists that are out there. Covering everything from small scale grocers to wineries, breweries, specialty food businesses, that sort of thing. And Slow Food East Bay, Will, do you mind muting yourself?
Oh, sorry.
There you go. Thank you. So we have, at Slow Food East Bay, we have developed one as well, and I'm going to share that to start with. So this is something that we just put together trying to just show people what is open, and we have tabs down below. We're trying to cover small scale grocers, caterers that are offering meal deliveries, things like that, local butchers, bakeries, coffee, little liquor, because I think we could all use a little liquor right now. But this feels it just kind of started to feel very small. So with a number of other women, Farzana Sarang from Castanea Fellowship, Merit Doshi from UC Berkeley Extension, and Beth Spittler from Oakland Food Policy Council, the four of us decided to kind of come together and aggregate our networks and connections and try and compile all these resources into one website, a landing spot for this sort of information. Basically a consumer-based, consumer-centric, consumer-focused website where somebody can come and they're looking to do something. They want to give back. And so easily navigable links to feeding yourself, to giving back to your community, whether that's time or funds or material, ways to advocate as we're thinking about going forward. What does our food system look like, and can we be making changes and innovating now in the policy sector and encouraging people to get involved? And also just learning more about food safety practices that are happening, what's going on that side of things as well. And that website, and I say all that because I'm not necessarily saying that our website is where I want everyone to go, because our website is purely East Bay centric. But the idea is to create a model that can then be replicable for other regional communities. And that website, so the first where that kind of started from was this website that I'm sharing here, that was created by Farzana in 24 hours. And we're taking this idea and then spinning it out into a little bit more of an easily navigable site. And then we'll share all of those resources so other communities can be doing the same thing. And I think that as we're talking about, I mean, the hope is that, I just want to reiterate that what I mentioned about the farmers and what everybody else is mentioning as well is that we as eaters are an integral part of the local food system, and that we are the lifeline for these business owners right now. And that by spending money with a local business instead of at a big box store or an online source that's, you know, nationally owned or corporately owned, that we're keeping more dollars in our community and we're creating a more resilient, locally based food economy. And I think that that's something that we will take forward into this new world. So as we are working with our constituents, the people in our community, is just continuing to reiterate that point, that we're trying to solve a problem for right now, but that the solutions, the innovations that we're coming up with right now are things that we should hold on to and move forward with.
Thank you so much, Willow. So well said and so important. We are going to continue to keep the chat open. Please send us your questions and your resources. Again, like we said, this is an information potluck. We need to hear from all of you. We're trying to centralize and curate to make the endless list more navigatable for everyone and accessible. And again, if you're joining from Hawaii, I know I have some 808 Aloha in the house. These are models that we can all use in our areas to create a website, go-to resource. And I saw a question about where to volunteer. So we'll go to questions next. Out of respect for everyone's time, I'm going to say my closing, and then questions can be addressed to panelists or to the group in general. And again, you can always email us afterward. So thank you for joining us today and your interest in this very important topic. Find your local lifeline and resilient food source via the organizations and resources shared here today, or go out and find others. Consider who you can make long-term commitments to. A truly sustainable local food system is reflexive, where the supporters, eaters, customers invest in their farmers, producers, chefs, caterers, don't forget about all the little guys, and makers. Original CSAs were an upfront payment for the season or the year to a single farm where you would return each week to get your foodstuffs, because the farmer knew you'd be needing them for the future and they could plant and invest in feeding you, like Lorraine said and many of us mentioned. The antidote to panic buying, crisis capitalism, and scarcity is a robust and connected local economy made up of each and every one of us. The time is now like never before. We'll be sending out a follow-up email with a recap of all the resources discussed. Please stay in touch and take care of each other out there. Thank you for being here, and we're going to open it up to questions.
Big thank you also from the Slow Money team. It's a privilege to have you all in the room. Again, we're not closing the meeting down right now. We're keeping the chat as the potluck channel open right now, so you can put all your links and initiatives down here, and we'll copy the links and put them in the follow-up email. Just with we still have 133 people on the line, so we, of course, it wouldn't work if everybody would be talking right now, but the chat box is patient, and please put everything down that you're working on. Thank you.
Yeah, keep sharing information. Two of the questions I saw pop up, I'll jump in while we're sort of gleaning. About social distancing, where's the best way to get food? So you can go to the farmers markets that are still open and your small local food stores. I found a great produce market out here in the Sunset. And if you're not comfortable, you can of course order online or have delivery or subscribe to a CSA. A lot of those things we mentioned and those resources are available. Where to volunteer, this is another good thing to put on all of our individual regional resources. In San Francisco, I know that a lot of the food service, Meals on Wheels, Project Open Hand, Glide, any of the places that offer hot meals or delivery, many of their volunteers are older and retired, so they've lost a huge volunteer base. You can contact the Department of Health or the Food Security Task Force to find out where and how to go. You can also email me, Ave@Quesa, and the whole Quesa family is so thankful for all of you for being here as well. I'm seeing that SF Marin Food Bank also has a site for volunteers. Will, do we have a few questions for our last 10 minutes here?
I think we may have lost Will. I'm not seeing him on my participant screen.
So I have a question to Lorraine, also about the volunteering. Now that the CSA have extra pressure on them, the loads of the trucks are extra strong, but you don't have more people. Is there a safe way for a customer and community to volunteer and help farmers and or restaurants with deliveries or things like this, or are they the safety laws prohibiting that?
So, you know, one of the biggest problems we run into here in California is actually workers' comp. Because if we have people, we can't technically really have people volunteer on the farm. So for instance, with woofing in California, we'd have to pay them minimum wage and pay workers' comp. And what we have found also is a big hindrance for us is not having somebody who's available time-wise to actually direct and show volunteers what to do. My crew, my field crew and my pack house crew, almost all of them are related. They've been working together for years and years and years, and they're like a highly functioning, well-oiled machine. So it's not easy for me to just throw somebody in. However, when all of this happened, one of my truck van drivers, he and his partner actually grow flowers and raise quail on our farm. And his partner Tam, who does primarily the flowers, she works in the restaurant industry. And so everything blew up for us. And she came in and said, well, because she's already around us, so we're sort of all quarantining together. She said, I'm out of work, so if you need any help. And it was like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. So we were able to slot her right in and put her to work, and actually pay her and make up for the fact that she's lost her other job, at least temporarily. So that's kind of what we have been doing. And then I have some family members who needed a place to land. One has been going to school in Fremont and the school has shut. So she came back to the farm and she's helping out a little bit too. But yeah, volunteering is hard. You really have to have somebody available to actually show the volunteers what to do. And I would imagine right now we'd all be hard pressed to find somebody who's capable of doing that, having the time to do that. So.
Thank you, Lorraine. Yeah, it looks like Will got disconnected. I have a text from David Keisel here about the Capay Valley Farm Shop for local growers and possible delivery to East Bay and SF. Sorry, I'm trying to look at the chat here now. Looks like we have some East Coast in the house.
There was one question that somebody posed, if I could just respond to that some people have zero cooking skills and aren't really used to cooking, and then maybe it's a possibility for some cooking instruction online. And we're actually going to be doing that. I'm launching something tomorrow, starting every day something beautiful, something delicious. And there'll be a recipe and instructions and just a way to kind of connect with my community. But I would imagine if you reach out to some of your local and whatever region you are, that those things are happening. I know that people are starting to put recipes and food instructions, easy to do things that we can do. So just to answer Melissa's question, I believe.
Thank you, Pamela. Yeah, Quesa.org, we're also having a lot of our makers do demos. I did one myself. There's also something called Food Gnome, and there's a home cooking website. It's been shared in here. I don't have it off the top of my head. For folks who can't really cook or would like someone to cook for them, it's a one-on-one service.
I have two questions, which I'm also gleaning kind of from our chat box. One is for Ave, and maybe Evan has a little bit on this as well. And then for Evan and Lorraine, I have a second question. And the first one is in terms of farmers markets and where we stand right now. For some of our smaller scale producers of kind of the second level goods, whether that's like salsas or jams or things like that, or chocolate makers or bakers, like, is there any kind of emergency way that they can get to be a part of farmers markets? Because I know sometimes it's like a year-long process between safety certifications and all of that. Like, is there any fast tracking for that? So that's kind of that's my first question. And then my second question that I'm seeing too for Lorraine and Evan is are there farmers, are more people teaming with local farms so that when you're bringing your boxes, you could also offer meat or dairy or eggs or things like that? Like, is there a way to do that? And how do we know, like, are there resources for farmers and are there resources for consumers? So those would be two questions that I'm kind of seeing.
Yeah, great. I can speak to the sort of shelf-stable chocolates, beans, pantry items. We have a Pad Your Pantry on the Quesa website. We also have a lot of vendors who have those things. And there's a whole resource for delivery and pickup. So a lot of people are going online or going via other online shops, and that's how we're sort of facilitating that. I also wanted to speak to the social distancing, hand washing, and all the safety regulations in place at the farmers markets, to just reiterate that they're very safe and everything has been put into process so that people can come and feel safe.
Yeah, and just I'd also like to add on to that in terms of the safety of the farmers markets. One thing to also keep in mind is that in order for those farmers markets to stay open, we have to practice those social distancing. Unfortunately, what's happening right now across the state is that a number of those farmers markets are getting canceled because of fears of people crowding and things like that, which, you know, for all I'm sure you can see is pretty, pretty absurd, given the fact that you have crowded, grocery stores that are far more crowded, and yet for some reason local governments are shutting down farmers markets because people are not abiding by those safety rules. So that's just a plug to say social distancing allows for those farmers markets to stay open and not get shut down. Otherwise, not abiding by those could jeopardize the livelihoods of those farmers. As far as connecting farmers with other opportunities and collaborations, so for instance, like connecting a CSA farm that's doing pearls with a meat option, we have a whole farm to market team here at CAF that's assisting with a lot of that aggregation and making those connections. A lot of folks who've lost those market opportunities and previous sales outlets, we're right now to connect with CSA farms that are open to adding on those additions. So I posted in the chat there a link to all of our COVID-19 resources that are specific to farmers. So if you know folks, whether they're farmers, ranchers, they can find out more information there, and they can sign up to get assistance from our farm to market team. Again, the only way we're going to get through this is collaboration. So we want to make sure that those connections are made.
It's 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to that. That was a program I started almost 2 years ago with our CSA, was adding on these extra items from farmers and food producers who are basically friends of mine, and produce amazing food that I love. Like just an example, we've been carrying Aiden fermented foods misos that we've been offering to our CSA members. And I had gotten an order about 2 weeks ago. And this past Saturday, I just ordered and picked up $810 worth of miso. And it's flying to our CSA members, which is amazing to me. It's wonderful. I drove up to Grass Valley yesterday to pick up local culture sauerkraut for my husband and wife, who make really, really amazing sauerkrauts. And for me, it's kind of nice to also support some of the farmers and producers up in more the Sacramento area, in addition to all my friends that I have at the Ferry Plaza Farmers Market. And it's been, I know for my CSA members, looking at the amount of orders that are coming in for all these extra items, it's a huge relief for them to have this available to come in with their CSA boxes. So, yeah.
I see some questions about technical support and leveraging sort of tech companies or funding. If you have information on that, please email one of us and we can connect you. I know Koisa and all the online platforms that haven't been created yet or are need that sort of expertise. So yeah, please reach out and we can connect you.
Yeah, and this is Arno. And I also wanted to add, there was a question, where's all the stuff that you didn't address? For example, we didn't really address the services that bring food to the food insecure populations today and the like. So that's why I'm sharing this slide again about today's focus. So today, when people think about what are the pressing questions in our food system right now, first question that comes to mind for a lot is like, how do I find the good food now that the shelves are empty and some farmers markets are closed? The other question is indeed like, how do people who are food insecure now get access to food that a lot of the infrastructure has been interrupted? And then there's the question that we addressed on today's webinar mostly, is how do we keep the local food sources open, afloat, and so that they can pay their employees? And even in that, we just talked mostly about the community support. What can we, customers and eaters, doing? There are a number of programs out there that come in from a local, state, and federal program. The stimulus package will probably have some effect. There are foundations, there are philanthropists out there. There should be webinars about all of these topics that we didn't cover today as well. So this is a potluck and this is a village. So if you are organizing something in one of the boxes that we didn't cover today, please share it with us, put it in the chat box, or send us the links, because we know that's such a big challenge. Not like one organization of us all will organize everything. Just to be clear, it's not just because we didn't cover some of the other questions today. We don't think that they're not. We don't think that they're not important. But we chose a focus for today, right, which was community support for local food sources. But let us know what you are organizing, and we know about a few initiatives. So we'll think about how we create a sharing channel out of this and how we keep this alive after we end this webinar, and you'll get an email. And go to the Slow Money norcal.org website. There is a button there that has the sorry, you may just have deleted that, hope not. That has the link to the aggregation link and lists that we featured in the webinar right now.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a plug also for our first responders and healthcare workers and people at the emergency center. You can order food and send it to an elderly neighbor or anyone at this point. Is a wonderful way to just share some love. This was being video recorded, so we will post that, I think, also on the Slow Money website, Arno, and all these resources will be linked there as well.
We will post it, and you'll all get an email where it's posted. Yeah.
Hi all, it's Willow. I know we're kind of pulling to the end. I need to peel away because I have to go back to my job that actually pays the bills. But I just wanted to give my thanks to the panelists and give my thanks to all these attendees. And I alternate between anxiety and hope, but right now I'm feeling a lot of hope because we are an incredibly strong and resilient group of people. And I just can't wait to see what sort of innovation and adaptation comes out of this and makes for a stronger food system down the road. So I can be reached. You'll get my email. And certainly anyone with resources, please, please, please reach out to me. We have a couple of working groups, and I would love to just plug Slow Food and the Slow Food movement in wherever we can. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Willow. Thank you, everyone. I think we'll wrap with that. Take care out there.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me.